You. So, did you know that Princeton and Yale began admitting women to their universities in 1969? Brown University in 1971, and Dartmouth in 1972. In fact, the last of Ivy League universities, Columbia University, did not admit women until 1983. That's many years after I was born and many of your parents were born. On the other hand, the American University of Beirut started admitting women 100 years ago. In fact, 98 years ago, the first Muslim woman was admitted to AUB. She graduated from AUB many years later and went to the UK to finish her PhD. Her name is Ihsan al-Kusi, and she was a trailblazer for many Lebanese and Egyptian women. But no one would have heard about Ihsan al-Kusi had there not been a Wikipedia article about her. An article that has garnered millions of views since it was first published. An article that was written by AUB students. So today, I'm here to tell you how AUB students became engaged in the politics of representation and started penning articles about notable women and men from around the Arab world in order to preserve our literary and intellectual heritage. 3 years ago, I met our interim head of libraries, Mrs. Fatmi Sharafuddin, at a conference. She told me that so many of our Renaissance authors here in Lebanon do not have Wikipedia articles about them. I thought, this is weird. I went on Wikipedia and checked. Truly enough, authors like Elia Abu Madi, Ilyas Bouchabaki, Khail Naimi, and others did not have Wikipedia articles about them. These are very important figures for us and the world, yet they were nowhere to be found. Of course, Khalil Gibran has an article about him. He's Lebanese American, he's very much appreciated in the US, and his article is very comprehensive. I also noticed one very important fact. Most of the articles that are penned about us in Lebanon and the Arab world are not written by Arabs. That had to change. We needed to remedy this. We needed to start learning how we represent ourselves. I could not single-handedly author hundreds of articles, so I had to rally the troops, and who better than AUB students? As part of my goal for responsible learning, I took this issue to the classroom. I spoke to my students and they got very excited. They wanted to be part of this initiative, and the second question was, how do we do that? Where do we start? Fortunately, my former professor from my PhD years, Dr. Matthew Vetter, is a Wikipedia scholar. So I talked to him and he referred me to Helene Blumenthal from Wikipedia Education. When I first contacted her, she was very hesitant because she said, we only work with American institutions. And I said, well, we are an American institution. Not only that, we're one of the oldest and most prestigious. I have to check, came her pragmatic answer. But luckily, 2 weeks later, we became the first institution outside of North America to join Wikipedia Education, and the work began. We set up a training course on how to edit Wikipedia and author encyclopedic entries, conduct research, write well-cited articles, and avoid plagiarism. Students got to work, and the first batch of 6 articles garnered 14.9 million views in less than 3 months. We were elated. After finishing the course with me, 10 students wanted to remain working on this project, and so Turath was born. Our objective at Turath was to create a community research network and develop students' authorial voices and engage them in the cultural politics of representation. We wanted to preserve our heritage. We liaised with others at AUB and around the world. AUB Libraries, Women's Studies, the MEPI program, AUB Press, Wikimedia Commons, Art and Feminism, and of course Wikipedia Education. We organized editathons, contributed hundreds of thousands of sources, images, words, data, and references. And our work so far has garnered over 20 million views. Exactly. But this is not only it. See, we've also forced Wikipedia to acknowledge our presence. We fought for our right to represent ourselves the way we deem necessary. So when Wikipedia editors delete our articles, and they do that very frequently, saying the authors that you've picked or the people that you've picked do not have any presence on the internet, we remedy this. We cite sources and we find ways to document their work online so that we can put these articles back up. We have reclaimed the right to decide for ourselves who we consider notable, who is important for us and for our communities, who is important for our literature and our history. We are engaged in a fierce dialogue, and we are deeply immersed in the political game of representation. Now that I've told you about our project, how it took off, and how it became successful both here and in North America, where we have received a lot of attention and funding, let me wrap this up a little differently. See, this is a very emotional moment for me. I've been teaching at AUB for 8 years, and today is my last day here. I'm sharing this because in my years at AUB, I've witnessed greatness in so many different forms. I'm not talking about the greatness of this institution. I'm not talking about the beautiful campus. I'm not talking about the world-renowned faculty. And I'm not talking about the medical center. These are givens. I'm talking about the greatness of the students. Students, yes, you deserve it. Students who succeeded against all odds, students who overcame all sorts of challenges, students who were here on scholarships, students who sometimes borrowed books to study for midterms and finals. Yet these students, marginalized or privileged, from well-to-do families or struggling families, were able to come here and make it. I saw them use this opportunity of being here to climb higher mountains and reach the top, get acknowledged for their genius, and make something great of themselves. And as I leave this institution, I know that what I will miss the most about AUB is the students. These young souls and minds who make me wake up every single day and come here, overcome hurdles, to come here and give, to engage in conversation, to lead, and oftentimes to follow. My biggest regret will be in the years to come that I've decided to uproot my daughter and make her leave AUB mid-education to seek an opportunity elsewhere. But even though my daughter won't graduate from here, I will always say my children graduated from AUB because to me, all my students are my children. Thank you.